Welcome to today's webinar, Maintaining Engagement Over Summer Break. Today we'll be sharing strategies for giving your social media a boost over the summer so you can start the next school year successfully. We're excited to welcome so many folks to our webinar today, and if you have questions, please drop those into the Q&A box as we go through today, and time permitting, we'll answer those at the end. Before we get started, just a little bit about us. Social News Desk empowers critical communicators with powerful, secure social media management and archiving software trusted by more than 10,000 professionals. We were founded in 2010, and since then, we've proudly supported America's largest news companies, cities, government agencies, school districts, universities, and businesses who require powerful, always-on social media tools. And a little bit about me. I'm Sarah Lloyd, the head of product success and evangelism here at Social News Desk. I'm based in San Antonio, Texas. I've been with the team for 11, almost 12 years now. And prior to joining SND, I managed social media and worked in several newsrooms. And I was actually a Social News Desk customer before I joined the team. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. The address is there on the screen. And today I have Charlie Losiewicz, our education sales specialist, joining me. And Charlie, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. And my name's Charlie Losiewicz. I'm the education specialist, as you mentioned. I'm a little bit up the road from Sarah in Dallas, Texas. And while I haven't been with Social News Desk for 12 years, I have been spent the last 20 plus years in the education tech sector.
All right, great. And we'll go ahead and move on to a poll. So let me pull that poll up here. So I'd love to hear from you guys. What's your biggest summer social media challenge? So take a moment to vote if you don't mind. And our choices are coming up with fresh content ideas, reduced engagement from our audience, limited staff or coverage during summer, or tracking what's happening on campus. So we'll give that a couple more seconds here. All right, it looks pretty unanimous. Most people are having trouble coming up with fresh content ideas. All right, so we have a ton of content ideas today. So hopefully you'll take away some great ideas that you can take into your summer. So here's what we're covering today. First, how to plan ahead before summer actually hits, because of course, late August is too late to start thinking about this. And we're going to dig into what actually works during summer. We'll also share some specific examples from schools that are doing this really well on both the K-12 and higher ed side. And of course, we're also going to talk about staying responsive when half your team is out of the office. So the first key is planning ahead, and we mean really ahead. If you're waiting until June to think about your summer strategy, you are already behind. So let's talk about the scheduled versus reactive question. This is where we see schools get stuck. Scheduled content means you're planning and creating everything in advance. You batch create posts in May, you load them into your scheduler, and they go out automatically all summer. The advantage is you can actually take vacation without worrying, but the downside is if something changes, a camp gets canceled, a facility project gets delayed, your pre-scheduled content might be totally wrong. Reactive content means you're posting in real time based on what's actually happening. The advantage is it's authentic and timely, but the downside is that someone needs to be present and creating content all summer long, which is tough when people are taking time off. Now, here's the thing. Neither approach is wrong, but you do need to decide which one works best for your team and your summer reality. And honestly, most successful schools don't just pick one or the other. They really do a hybrid, which we'll talk about in a second. But first, you need to assess, what does your summer actually look like? How predictable is your schedule? And how much staff coverage do you realistically have? So option one, schedule the entire summer in advance. This works best if your summer is pretty predictable. You might run the same camps every year at the same time. Maybe your facility schedule is locked in early, and you know when construction projects are happening. And this works really well if you have minimal staff coverage. Maybe you're a one-person team and you want to actually disconnect when you're on vacation. So here's what this looks like in practice. In May, you sit down and create 8 to 10 weeks of content. You pull together camp photos from last year, facilities project updates, throwback content, maybe some enrollment reminders, anything that you know will be relevant. And then you load it all into your scheduling tool and it posts automatically throughout the summer. The pros here are obvious. Peace of mind, consistent presence even if you're gone, and you can actually enjoy your time off. But the cons, you're less flexible. If something changes, you need to remember to go back and update your scheduled content. And there's, of course, a risk that your content might feel a little dated or disconnected from what's actually happening. But honestly, for small teams with limited coverage, this is often the best option. A consistent scheduled presence beats radio silence. Option 2 is to stay completely reactive all summer. This works if your summer schedule is unpredictable. Maybe your programming changes week to week, or you're doing a lot of one-off events that you really can't plan for in advance. And it does require adequate staff coverage, whether that's multiple people trading off or someone who's willing to be on call for most of the summer. The reactive approach means that you're posting based on what's actually happening that day. If camp started today, post about it today. The new gym floor is going in, grab your phone and document it. This feels really authentic because it is. You're sharing what's happening in real time. The advantage here is flexibility. Your content always matches reality. If a camp gets canceled, it's no problem. You just don't post about it. If something amazing happens unexpectedly, you can capture and share it immediately. But the downside is it requires constant attention. Someone needs to be thinking about social media all summer long. And it's hard to truly disconnect when you're on vacation. And your posting can also get inconsistent. If you have a busy week, there might be lots of posts because there's lots of content, but on a slow week, there might be nothing. This approach works best for larger teams or districts where someone is always working, even if individuals are rotating out vacation time. Now, option 3, and honestly what we recommend for most schools, is the hybrid approach. This means you schedule your evergreen, non-time sensitive content in advance, but you deliberately leave those gaps for reactive, timely content. So what kind of things do you schedule? You can schedule things that are always true: enrollment information, program highlights, throwback photos, district values, and recurring summer programs that you know are happening in advance. And maybe you schedule 2 posts a week that go out automatically. And that's enough to maintain a presence, but not so much that you're locked in. And then what do you leave gaps for? Things like breaking news, real-time updates, things that are happening right now. It might be a surprise visit from an alumni, an unexpected achievement from a student, maybe a facilities project that's ahead of schedule. It's those spontaneous moments that really make social media feel alive. And this approach gives you the best of both worlds. You have baseline consistency even when everyone's on vacation, but you also have the flexibility to be responsive and timely when something great happens. Practically speaking, this might look like scheduled posts going out on Mondays and Thursdays, but then you drop in reactive content on other days as needed. Or you might schedule 1 post a day to maintain your presence and then add bonus content when you feel like you have something worth sharing. The key is just building in that intentional flexibility rather than trying to plan every single post. So most schools, both K-12 and higher ed, plan about 80% of their summer content in advance while keeping 20% flexible for reactive content. This allows them to adapt to unexpected events or timely opportunities. And it's also important to note how summer vacation schedules can vary. K-12 schools often have longer summer breaks, lucky guys, but that allows for different planning strategies compared to your higher ed institutions, which might follow a more business style year-round calendar. And understanding these differences is crucial for effective content planning and helps to maintain engagement through the summer months.
So let's talk about how you can stay responsive in between the scheduled content, even if you have a limited staff over the summer. If you're a one-person communication team, who's covering social when you're on vacation? If you're a larger team, how are you coordinating so that there's always someone available? This is something that you want to figure out in April or May and not the week before July 4th. So an example of what this would look like is first mapping out everyone's vacation schedules. And again, this will look different based on your school or district size if you're in higher ed, but having the framework is going to be valuable in any scenario. Second, identify who's a primary person for each week of summer. Also identify who's the backup if something urgent comes up. Then you want to create clear handoff procedures. Where are the login credentials? What's the approval process? And who do you contact if there's a crisis of some sort? And then please do not ever fall into the trap of assuming someone else will handle it. Some schools end up going completely dark for 2 weeks because the communications director was on vacation and nobody else had access or authority to post anything. Not a good plan. But even if your plan is, hey, we're posting minimally in July, just make sure someone knows that they're responsible for that minimal posting. Put it in writing, add it to their calendar, make it explicit. Because the alternative is what? You're relaxing with a beverage on the beach in Mexico and still checking your phone because you're the only one who knows the Instagram password. It's not sustainable, and it's really not fair to you. And an item closely related to schedules is approval processes. During the school year, you probably have a pretty defined approval process. Maybe your principal or your superintendent signs off on major announcements. Maybe your athletic director, sports content. But what happens in the summer when those people are also on vacation? So you need to establish ahead of time, who approves what when the usual approvers aren't available. Can you get pre-approval for certain categories of content? Is there a streamlined summer approval process that doesn't require 3 signatures? Now, some schools do this really well. They get blanket approval in May for things like camp highlights, facilities updates, throwback content. Anything that's routine and positive is typically can be approved in advance. That way, the summer social media person isn't stuck waiting for approval on a time-sensitive post. But for those things that do need approval, major announcements, policy changes, anything controversial, you need to establish a clear escalation path. So if person A is on vacation, it goes to person B. If both are gone, here's the emergency contact. The worst case scenario you have here is that you end up bottlenecking all of your summer content on one person who's unreachable for 2 weeks. That kills your social presence. It frustrates your team, and maybe worst of all, it diminishes trust within your community. So you're going to figure out your approval workflow before summer starts and document it so that everyone knows the process. And just to add a quick plug, if you're using the social news desk platform, the approvals feature makes this way easier. Your approvers can even approve or reject content straight from their phone. And here's the thing that nobody wants to think about, but absolutely everybody needs to plan for, and that's crisis communication in summer. Facilities emergency, student incidents at summer camp, safety concern, misinformation spreading online. These things don't pause just because it's July. So some things to establish ahead of time. One, what qualifies as a crisis that requires immediate social media response? 2, who gets notified when something happens? 3, what's the approval chain for crisis messaging? And then critically, how do you reach decision makers when everyone's scattered? So we're being practical. Something happens at 3 p.m. on a Friday in July. Who's authorized to post a response? Do they need approval before they have authority to act? If they need approval, who are they calling? And what happens if that person doesn't answer? Again, it should all be documented, like actually written down in a shared document before summer starts. Include phone numbers, backup content, examples of what qualifies as crisis level, and maybe some pre-drafted holding statements for common scenarios. And then make sure whoever's covering social media knows this plan exists and where to find it. Because at the end of the day, in a crisis, people panic. So having a clear process documented ahead of time means that these people can act quickly and appropriately instead of scrambling for an answer. This is something obviously, hope you never have to have this plan, but having it in place just gives you. Last piece, managing comments and messages when you have limited staff coverage. First, go ahead and set expectations with your audience. You can post your summer hours, let people know, we typically respond within 24 to 48 hours during summer break or whatever number is realistic for you. Most people are usually pretty understanding if you're transparent with them. Second, use auto responses for common questions. If you're getting the same 5 questions over and over, what are enrollment deadlines, what are summer program schedules, facility rental info, just set up auto responses with that information, that we don't have to reinvent the wheel and waste time replying to the same answer in 10 different ways. Third, monitor, but don't stress out about instant replies. Check in once a day, respond to what needs responding to, and let the rest wait till tomorrow. Unless it's some crisis or time sensitive question, a 24-hour response time is totally fine in the summer. And finally, know when to escalate versus when it can wait. If you have a negative comment about a policy, that can probably wait till Monday. If you have a serious safety concern or parent complaint, that probably needs to be escalated to whoever's on call. The key here is being intentional. You're not ignoring people. You're just managing your capacity realistically. And honestly, your audience would probably rather have you taking care of yourself and giving thoughtful responses as opposed to burning yourself out trying to answer everything in 5 minutes.
All right. Thanks, Charlie. Those are some great points. And yeah, we definitely hope no one has to use their crisis plan during the summer, but it is so critical to have that in place. All right, so let's move on and talk about what actually gets engagement during the summer. And before we get into the content examples, here are some overall tips to maximize your efforts. First, focus on the platforms that give you the best performance. By concentrating your resources here, you'll maximize your reach and impact. So if Facebook and Instagram are your primary channels, then definitely concentrate on Facebook and Instagram. You can use other platforms for reactive content or messages that might need a wider broadcast. This strategy makes sure that you're not spreading yourself too thin while still maintaining a broader reach when necessary. And of course, LinkedIn is a powerful tool for attracting staff. Its professional network makes it ideal for connecting with potential talent and showcasing your organizational culture. Now, of course, video content, while not always necessary, tends to generate higher engagement. It's a really dynamic way to capture attention and convey your message effectively. Finally, ensure your content is mobile friendly. With so many people accessing information on their phones, this is crucial for maintaining accessibility and engagement. So let's keep these tips in mind as we check out these content examples. So we're going to walk through the summer calendar roughly in order, starting with the end of the previous school year and moving all the way through fall kickoff. For each category, we've pulled real examples from schools and universities that are doing this really well. Some of these are posts that you could replicate almost exactly, just swap in your own photos or graphics. So first up, of course, is celebrating the end of the school year. This is your natural summer content launchpad. You've got ceremonies, celebrations, emotional moments. It's just some of the most engaging content you'll produce all year, and it's the perfect bridge into summer content. One of our favorite things to do with graduation content is extend its shelf life through alumni spotlights. This post from Oneida City School District is a great example. They took a graduation photo and turned it into a Where Are They Now feature, sharing how one of their alumni has been doing since high school. And why does this work so well? Well, it taps into community pride and nostalgia. These are two things that perform really well on social. It's also highly shareable because the alumni themselves will often share it, and so will their families and former classmates. And here's the practical win. You can batch create a whole series of these in May and schedule them throughout the summer. Each one takes maybe 30 minutes to put together if you already have the story.
And don't let summer enrollment silence be an unforced error. If your district is still in an enrollment period, and for many of you, that window will run all the way through August, you need to be showing up consistently in people's feeds with reminders. So this post here from Northside ISD in San Antonio does that very cleanly. Clear message, clear call to action, welcoming tone, nothing complicated. And it's exactly the kind of post that's perfect for your scheduled content calendar. You can start off right off 5 or 6 enrollment reminder posts in May, maybe change up the wording and the visuals a little bit, and then schedule them to go out every 2 to 3 weeks throughout the summer. That way you stay top of mind without anyone having to remember to go out and post it every week. And something that often goes overlooked in summer planning, your teachers are still out here doing incredible things, even when the students aren't in the building. This post from East Central ISD highlights a teacher who earned an advanced certification through a grant, and it got a ton of engagement. Why? because communities genuinely love celebrating their teachers, and summer is the perfect time to do it without competing with all the event-driven content of the school year. If you're currently using any kind of analytics or reporting tools or your social media, you'll probably already know that these human interest stories consistently outperform announcements and informational posts and get some of the highest engagement. So if you can find one story like this per month over the summer, you got yourself some of the highest performing content that you're going to put out. Professional development doesn't have to be individual spotlights. You can also highlight bigger initiatives that are out there. Arlington Community Schools brought together more than 200 educators from multiple districts for a summer summit that focused on innovative teaching strategies, and they just made the most out of it on social. What I love about this is the scale. It positions the district as a regional leader, not just a local one. And for community members who sometimes wonder what teachers do over the summer, it's a powerful answer. They're learning, they're collaborating, they're getting better at what they do. It's just a story that's worth telling.
Yeah, definitely. So let's move into some summer programs. Almost every school and district has something to work with here. Memorial Middle School did something really smart here. They posted about their upcoming summer school programs using photos from previous years. They didn't wait until the program started. They didn't scramble to take new photos. They just pulled from their archive, wrote a caption about what's coming up, and got it scheduled. That's it. If you've been running summer programs for more than a year, you have photos. So use them. This is one of the easiest scheduling wins on the whole calendar. Now compare that to this post from Alcorn Central Elementary School, which posted about their summer program after the fact, sharing what students actually did in real time. This is a perfect example of the reactive approach that we talked about earlier. It's authentic, it's timely, and it shows the community what summer school actually looks like in action, not just what it's called. Both approaches work. The question is which one fits your team's reality. And if you're going hybrid, you might schedule the coming up post like Memorial did, then post real photos reactively once the program is running. For our higher ed folks, summer programming is a significant part of the calendar and often a significant revenue source. Asbury University does a great job here of packaging all of their summer education opportunities into a single post that feels informative rather than salesy. This is also a smart scheduling play. It's content that's largely the same year over year. So once you build the template, you update the dates and the details, and you're done. That's the kind of content that makes your summer calendar so much easier to manage.
In higher ed, social media is also going to be used a lot for strategic recruiting. So in this example, the University of Delaware highlights their EDGE program that brings high school students onto campus to experience college life before they even apply anywhere. And so this post is doing double duty. It's highlighting a current program and is planting a seed with prospective students and families who are watching. High school juniors and seniors are absolutely scrolling their feeds right now, thinking about where they want to go to college. So if your institution runs programs like this, you need to be posting about them and making sure that these prospective students can see what it's actually like to be on your campus. This one here might be my favorite. Utah State University runs a summer camp for senior citizens. They call it Road Scholar, ROAD. It's a week-long residential program for older adults, and they feature it on TikTok. Why did something like this work so well? Really because nobody expects it. It's surprising, it's heartwarming, and it's just genuinely shareable. And yeah, the senior citizens participating probably aren't the ones that are sharing it, but their adult children absolutely are. And it positions the university as a community institution, not just a place for 18 to 22-year-olds. So if your school has an unexpected or unconventional program like this, lean into it. The more surprising, the better.
Of course, not every school has formal summer programming, and that's totally okay. You don't need a packed event calendar to have something worth posting about. Loyola Marymount University did something simple and effective. They posted about how students can enjoy campus during the summer using beautiful photography they already had on file. It's a sunny campus with good vibes and just a caption about summer on campus. That's it. It's aspirational content, the kind of post that makes prospective students think, I want to be there. And it's completely schedulable in advance. This is exactly the kind of evergreen content you should be loading into your calendar in May. Texas State University took a similar approach, but leaned into something very specific to their campus, their proximity to the San Marcos River. Students tubing and cooling off in the river, it's authentic, it's visually stunning, it is so Texas, it is something that other schools can't replicate because it's uniquely theirs. And the lesson here is just to think about what makes your campus distinctive. What's the thing that students love about being there in summer? The lake, the local town, the outdoor spaces, the city, whatever it is, that's your summer content hook. Lead with what's real and specific to you.
Yeah, tubing in Texas is kind of rite of passage. Yeah, you look here at High Point University, who went with something more contained but equally effective. Their pool, uh, branded with the university logo on the first day of summer. A couple of things to notice here. That the first day of summer hook. Seasonal milestones are really easy content opportunities. First day of summer, 4th of July, first day of August, Labor Day. These are all natural reasons to post something without much setup. And second, the branded pool makes it immediately identifiable. So if you have campus spaces that are just visually distinctive or branded, use them. They just reinforce your identity every time they appear in someone's feed. And then you have Southeastern University, who took a completely different angle and just had some fun with it. They just posted photos of empty campus buildings leaning into the whole quiet of summer with kind of a dry humor of we're lonely and ready for you to come back. What this shows is that you don't have to be earnest and aspirational with every post, and that a little personality goes a long way. So if your institution's social voice allows for some wit, summer is actually a great time to deploy it because there's less pressure, fewer stakeholders watching every word, and audiences just generally respond to content that makes them smile.
Yeah, I love that. That whole reel is so funny because she's just standing in all the buildings on campus, just looking around for students. And of course, your students don't stop doing amazing things just because the semester ended. Duke University showed off here how their students spent summer break, traveling internationally, doing research, taking on internships. And this is a great model for a few reasons. It celebrates your students, which they love and they love to share. It shows the real world impact of a Duke education, which matters to prospective students and their families. And it's content you might be able to generate without creating anything yourself. If you ask students to tag the university or submit their summer photos, you're turning your audience into your content creators. User generated content is authentic, scalable, and effectively free. And here's one that people often don't think of. School board meetings. They still happen in the summer, and they're actually a good content opportunity. Sherman ISD does a great job here. They shared highlights from a summer board meeting and featured students from their elementary summer school program who led the Pledge of Allegiance to open the meeting. So that's two content opportunities in one post: governance transparency and student spotlight. It shows the community that things are still happening, decisions are still being made, and summer school students are being celebrated. If you're covering board meetings during the school year, don't stop in summer.
And let's get into what I think of as the second half of summer. August content, back to school season, and specifically for higher ed, move-in time. Move-in day is one of the highest stakes content opportunities the entire year for colleges and universities. Families are emotional, students are nervous and excited, and everyone's paying attention. But the content opportunity actually starts weeks before move-in day itself with your preparation content. So here, the University of Alabama shared practical tips for move-in day. Just simple things like bundling hung clothes and trash bags so you can transport them easier, coordinating with roommates in advance so you can avoid any kind of duplicate things in the dorm. This kind of content performs really well for a few reasons. First, it's just genuinely useful in that most kids don't ever think about these things, which means that people are going to save it and come back to it. Second, parents share it. And parents, are the ones that have the biggest influence in where students enroll. And third, it positions the school as a partner in the move-in process, not just the destination. So if you're in higher ed, practical, here's how to prepare content should absolutely be in your summer queue. Then Mars Hill University kept it even simpler. Just a clean photo post with a few move-in reminders, no elaborate production, no video, just useful information packaged clearly. I like to call this one out because I think that with video content typically getting the most engagement, there's sometimes pressure to make everything a reel or a video or something highly produced. But this post works because the info is good, the image is clean, so not every piece of content needs to be a production. Sometimes simplicity is exactly right.
Yeah, move-in day is also a natural anchor for a countdown series, and Point Park University used it beautifully. They marked 1 month until move-in using photos from a previous year's move-in day. Again, old photos. They didn't need a photographer to make this work. They already had photos in their archive, and then they wrote a caption and they scheduled it. If you have a major milestone coming up at the end of summer, like move-in day, the first day of school, whatever it is, build backwards from it and create a series of countdown posts using photos you already have. It gives your summer calendar some structure and it builds anticipation. St. Mary's University of Minnesota took the same approach, 30 days until move-in, but with a slightly different visual treatment. What I want to highlight here is that this is completely templatable. If you don't have move-in photos from previous years, you can still do a countdown. A simple graphic with your brand colors and the number of days, or a photo of a staff member holding up a number like you see here, that's really achievable for any school, regardless of your photo archive. The point is just to show up in the feed, build excitement, and remind prospective families that something great is coming. And then, of course, move-in day itself arrives, and you have one of the richest content opportunities of the year. Imperial College in London took a new style approach on TikTok, interviewing students as they were literally moving into their dorms, getting real reactions in the moment. This is reactive content at its best. Timely, authentic, emotional, and shareable. Students tag themselves, parents share it, prospective students save it. And if you have even one person on your team who can be on campus on move-in day with a phone and some energy, you can create content like this. You don't need a crew or a script, just some good questions and willing participants.
And as we get closer to fall, schools also start showing what's happening behind the scenes to get ready for students. Here at Texas A&M University, Victoria, did this in this really feel-good way. They shared content of their team out on campus, painting paw prints on the streets and parking lots to welcome students back. So behind the scenes content like this works because it's humanizing. And it shows that real people care enough to literally paint the campus for students. Celebrate your staff, builds community excitement for the return to campus. It's also the kind of post that staff is going to share proudly because they feel like they're being seen. And this image is listed under high ed, but it's also effective for K-12 as well. Facilities upgrades are a summer staple for schools. This one, Columbia College turned it into a great reel that shows off everything they did while students were away. And in this scenario, the format matters. A reel or short video is perfect for showing multiple improvements because you can sweep through a dozen updates in 30 seconds. And you can do that in a way that might typically take 12 separate posts to cover otherwise. So if your school or your campus is doing any kind of renovation or improvement this summer, document it with your phone as it's happening. I know some schools have the production budgets for drone footage, which is great if you do, but even rough footage can be edited into a compelling, look what we did for you type of post before students arrive back on campuses. Here at Nassau Community College highlighted their renovated fountains, which is a great example of a single focus facilities post. This kind of content serves an important purpose beyond just looking good. It also communicates stewardship. So when community members, taxpayers, donors they see visible investments in campus infrastructure, it reinforces that the institution is actually taking care of what they've invested in. For community colleges, especially, where the audience often includes local residents who might not have direct student connection, this kind of post builds goodwill and public trust.
And back on the K-12 side, Manteo Middle School captured their teachers and staff decorating classrooms and getting ready for the new school year. The comments and engagement on posts like this are always warm and enthusiastic. This content works because it reminds families that your staff is excited and invested. Teachers decorating their rooms are showing love for their students before the students even arrive. And that emotional resonance translates to social engagement. Parents share it, tag other parents, and leave encouraging comments. It's a great way to build community and excitement in August before the first bell rings. Manor ISD, and that is pronounced Manor for those of you who might not be from Central Texas, used this moment to announce the expansion of their after-school programs to every campus in the district. And this is a smart content move because it's genuinely useful for families who are planning their fall logistics right now. After-school care is a real logistical need for working parents, and getting this information out in late summer through social reaches families where they actually are. It's also a good example of an announcement that works as a scheduled post. Write it in May, schedule it for August, done. And this category matters especially for schools in the middle of bond campaigns or levy renewals. When community members see that summer isn't downtime, that crews are working, campuses are improving, and staff are preparing, it reinforces the value of their investment. Summer is actually a really strategic time to document that work and share it publicly. Joseph J. Davies Elementary School did something delightful here. They set up a photo booth for their teachers' first day back before students arrived, and then shared the photos on social. And what I love about this is that it's celebrating staff while also building anticipation for the new year. The teachers look happy and energized, which is really reassuring for families, especially those kindergarten families coming in for the first time. And it's the kind of post that teachers will share themselves, which extends your reach without any additional effort on your part. It's a simple setup with a big payoff.
As we get into late July and August, many colleges bring incoming freshmen back early for orientation. This post from Texas A&M International University highlights students participating in they call their Dusty orientation experience. And orientation content is just a natural fit for social because students are already excited. They're smiling, doing fun things together, which is, making them extremely photogenic already. It's also a great recruitment signal. Those prospective students who are still deciding where to go, they see us and they think, that looks like a community I want to be a part of. So if your institution runs orientation programming, someone should have a phone in their hand the whole time. Involvement fairs, also a staple of early fall for universities. Here, UT San Antonio used one really effectively by promoting it in advance with a photo from the previous year's fair. Research is really clear that students who are involved in campus life, clubs, organizations, activities, sports, have much, much higher retention rates. So promoting your involvement fair isn't just a social media win, it's a retention strategy as well. And then again, for prospective students that are watching your account over the summer, seeing 400 plus student organizations, that tells a pretty powerful story about campus life.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to end on a note that is all about celebration. As the new school year approaches, seniors are getting ready for their first day of high school. This is going to happen to me next year. I'm already going to cry. Rockmart High School leans into that beautifully with this post about the senior tradition of painting parking spots in their student lot. And this is a great example of content that celebrates student identity and tradition. It's personal, it's visual, and it naturally generates a lot of engagement because the seniors themselves are tagged and sharing it with everyone they know. And if your school has traditions like this, and most do, plan to capture them. They're some of the most authentic, community-connected content you'll produce all year. So we hope you're walking away with a few ideas that you can put into practice this summer as you plan ahead so you can stay reactive when necessary. Before we get into our Q&A, if you'd like more information about Social News Desk for social media management, you can visit socialnewsdesk.com. All right, so let's get into a few questions here. Charlie, I'm going to pitch this first one to you. How far in advance should we realistically be planning our summer content calendar?
Ideally, you're thinking about this in April and doing the bulk of your planning in May. Before the end of the year rush hits and everyone's attention goes to graduation and closing out the school year. Might sound a little early, but if you wait till June, you've already missed the boat. Your best window for batch creating content is past. So even if all you do in May is block out your content categories, identify which photos you already have. That's still a huge head start. So you don't need a fully written content calendar by Memorial Day. You just need to plan a head start on the assets.
All right. Our next question here. What should we do if something scheduled goes out at a bad time, like during a crisis or a tragedy in the community? So first of all, don't panic. This happens to everyone at some point. And the most important thing is to pause your scheduled posts immediately while the situation is unfolding. Scheduling tools like Social News Desk have a way to pause all upcoming posts. And once things have settled and you've communicated what needs to be communicated, you can then resume your regular posting schedule. The biggest lesson is really to build a habit of checking your scheduled queue whenever something significant happens in the news or in your community. Just a really quick scan just to make sure nothing is tone deaf or awkward given the moment. So it only takes a couple minutes. It can save you from some really awkward situations. All right, our next question here. Charlie, if you don't mind taking this one. We're a K-12 district and most of our summer programming is just summer school. We don't have camps or athletics or anything like that. Is there still enough to post about?
Absolutely. And honestly, summer school is really an underrated content opportunity. The students during summer school are often the ones who benefit from being celebrated publicly. And posts that are out there spotlighting their hard work and their dedication can actually be really meaningful for them and their families. Beyond that, think about what your building looks like right now. Are there any facility repairs or upgrades happening? Are teachers doing any kind of professional development? Is your team already in there prepping for the fall? Any of those things are worth sharing. You don't need a packed events calendar to have a significant social presence. You just need to look at the stories that are already sitting right in front of you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Looks like our last question here. How do we handle negative comments or complaints on social media when we have minimal staff coverage? Yeah, that's a great question. So the key is deciding in advance what your response threshold is, meaning what kinds of comments require a response right away and what can be left alone or addressed later. A critical comment about a policy decision generally doesn't need a same-day response in July, but if it's a parent expressing a safety concern or something that could escalate or spread, that probably needs attention quickly, regardless of the time of year. And for routine negative comments, it's completely okay to set a 24 to 48-hour response window and communicate that expectation publicly in your summer hours post. Most people are pretty reasonable when you're transparent about your availability.
Yeah.
All right. So it looks like that's all the questions we have. So we're going to end it there. Thank you all so much for your time and attention today. Charlie, thank you for co-hosting. Always great to have you. And hope
Absolutely.
everyone has a great rest of your day. Thanks so much.